Now, all three parties in what has been called the traffic light coalition have agreed to move ahead with formal negotiations to form Germany's next government. Election winners, the SPD, along with the Greens and FDP, have been meeting since the vote for initial exploratory talks. But now a framework for government is in motion, and with it brings SPD leader Olaf Scholz one step closer to succeeding Angela Merkel as German Chancellor. Scholz said he's looking to form a progressive coalition for Germany.
We've agreed on paper a text for the exploratory talks, which can now form the basis for the decision in the parties. And from my perspective, this is a very good result. It makes it clear that it is possible to form a government in Germany that wants to ensure that we make progress.
Let's speak to Jona Kalgren, who's in Berlin for us. Jona, good to have you with us. The SPD, Greens and FDP coming out and saying that they are convinced that they can form a coalition now. What more can you tell us? What more have they agreed?
Well, they've agreed to this paper, which is not a detailed coalition agreement or contract, but it is the first basis for what will become a coalition agreement eventually. And in that paper, they, for example, set out that coal-fired power plants should end, they should be decommissioned earlier than previously agreed, or at least they're going to work towards doing that. There's not going to be any new taxes, something that the Liberal Party wanted. There will be a minimum wage, something that the Social Democratic Party wanted, and there'll be massive investments in green renewable technology, something that the Greens obviously wanted, and very well much needed investments in the digitalization of this country, something that all parties wanted. So they've agreed on these basic topics that were points where they were, at the start of this process quite far away from each other, especially when it comes to taxes, for example, that the Social Democratic Party actually wanted to increase. Now they've agreed not to do it because of the Liberals and so on. But as I said, it's not an agreement yet. It is the first step. And now they will, over the next few weeks or even months, really get into the nitty-gritty of this and make a 700 or 1,000 pages long document where all these things are really spelled out in details. And that's what they're then going to take and start governing with if this process goes as planned.
So nothing done and dusted. What happens next?
Well, what they will do now over the weekend, first of all, is to get the parties to sign this off. So at the moment, it's the leaderships of the parties have said, we've agreed to go from exploratory talks into coalition talks. And this basically means that it's more firm, the talks. The exploratory talks are quite open. You can continue to talk to other parties and so on while you're doing them. The next stage, what they've agreed to go into now, the coalition talks are more firm, and you're sitting down only with these two parties and really working through the details. And what the parties are now going to have to do is go back to their own parties. So the Greens are going to do that at a meeting here in Berlin over the weekend. The Liberals are going to do it on Monday and get an agreement from the parties saying, okay, move into the next stage. And that's most definitely going to happen. And then they're going to sit down, like I said, over weeks and weeks and weeks, hours and hours and hours, and write this extensive coalition agreement that they will then again take back to their parties to get approval for. And then they can, go to the Bundestag here behind me and say, we are now ready to test this, to test if we have a majority in the Bundestag. And then they can start governing. If it's before Christmas, well, everyone hopes it's going to be before Christmas, but that's a pretty tight schedule. But if they keep going at this speed, which they're going now, then that's actually possible.